Hello, this is Father Rich coming to you with our next session on how the church has changed the world. I'm here in my office in front of my bookshelf. I'm going to come back to that in a second. But this essay basically talks about two different people that were lowered by a basket in different settings. And the first they discuss is a man by the name of Athanasius Kircher, who was a Jesuit kind of scientist, polymath. And it's him being lowered into the crater of the volcano of Mount Vesuvius. He had such a hunger to understand the natural world. And he would use the Jesuit networking from all over the world to have the fellow Jesuits send him fossils and natural plants and animals and all kinds of things to help classify, as we know our scientific world was doing over the years in the 1600s. So he really was among many of the church's contribution in science to understanding the natural order. And what this whole essay really reinforces is that we as Christians and Catholics approach the natural order and this hunger to know that by studying the natural order we can come to know God better. And we see those going hand in hand. Going back to Genesis and seeing that God said everything he created was good. And so we see the goodness in nature and the things that God has in the created order. And then that being taken to another level by St. John, remember in the prologue, in John chapter 1, verses 1 through 5, he'd say, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The same was in the beginning with God. All things were made by him. Without him was not anything made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. And the light shineth in darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not." So this connection between created order and light. Remember, the first thing that God really creates is light. Let there be light. He speaks those powerful words, and when God speaks his word, it is made. They go one and it goes hand in hand. So we've always seen the goodness in the created order and the natural order, and believing that we could come to know God better in studying it and learning it. And that's really a unique contribution that our Christian Catholic tradition has had on our human family. And there have been many great scientists, especially naturalists, that studied nature, that were religious. Not only this Athanasius Kircher, we go back to Father Roger Bacon, who had a huge a medieval chemist and philosopher of the 13th century who studied nature very extensively. Father, let's see here, I know there's Father Gregor Mendel in the 1800s. He would work, you remember, with genetics, and he's considered the father of genetics. Another one I was not familiar with, Father Georges Lemaitre, the astrophysicist to whom we owe the theory of the Big Bang. So, some people misunderstand the church, is opposed to the Big Bang and evolution, and that's not the case. So, a big lesson of this essay in our church, in our world, is to realize what the church does and does not say. But anyway, so this history of many scientists who over the years studied nature and through it found that we could kind of dive more deeply into the mystery of God and the amazing complex ways that he creates things, but with order. And they kind of talk about how in the other in other civilizations maybe haven't contributed as much to this development. They talk about how the Arabs certainly made great contributions in medicine and mathematics and astronomy, but they were under the influence of some Greek philosophies that basically said that Allah, that God could order, right to be wrong and wrong to be right, and you had to believe it. So there wasn't this sense, it was more about obedience to God than it was understanding better and better the order of creation, and that could help us. So they didn't see a lot of energy in going further with that. And really over the last 800 years, this essay mentions they haven't contributed a whole lot to our kind of scientific growth. The Chinese, certainly very clever, and they believe in order, but they talk about how that order was static, cold, and timeless. So the world wasn't going anywhere. The example they say, one might say to stretch the terms a little bit, the Chinese invented dynamite and did nothing dynamic with it. So they had the understanding of certain things, but they weren't trying to extend it and as a way to study and grow in understanding of God. So regardless, this idea that, science again and religion can work together. We mentioned faith and reason back in the essay with St. John Vianney and the struggle between the Enlightenment in the Church of the French back in the 18th, 19th century. Going back to my bookshelf, this is the series that jumps out the most. This is St. Thomas Aquinas' Summa Theologica, and it's his systematic approach to trying through question and answer dialectic to understand God and truth. And he would devote his life to this. He was the second person being lowered in a basket, and that was to escape his family and those who were trying to get him to be a leader in the Benedictine order when he wanted to join the Dominicans, which was a new order by St. Dominic that had just started in the 1200s when he lived. And so this was an amazing attempt. And what he did uniquely is he brought the Greek philosophy of Aristotle that was being reintroduced in the world, having been kind of lost during the Dark Ages. And he applied the systematic approach to truth of the Greek philosophers and Plato and Aristotle specifically, and applied it to religion. So he uniquely, in our 2,000 years of church history, really helped bring faith and reason together, as we said is always the goal of the church. And so they mention that he, who now is considered a doctor of the church, he was named by Pope Pius XIII as the preeminent theologian in our whole Catholic history, that he really epitomizes this effort to bring together faith and reason, that science and religion can in fact work together and are not, working against each other, and that when we study the natural order of the beauty of this created world, that we come to know better the creator of the world. And so they say that we should call, the essay ends by saying, we should call St. Thomas of Aquinas St. Thomas of the creation. All scientists, whether they know it or not, are deeply indebted to him and to the mother who fostered him because of this contribution that he made to bringing together science and religion. So we thank St. Thomas for that. He's such a significant part, as is our church, in helping science develop. And so hopefully we see that this is a huge way that our church has been leavened and helped change the world. Thanks for joining me. God bless.